Hi guys, my name is Christina and welcome to my channel and welcome to yet another episode, the number of which I don't remember, of Weekend Drawing Podcast. So in this particular episode, I'm not accomplishing much at all, and because I'm what I'm gonna be doing in this episode is flying all over this particular scene and drawing kind of everything, so nothing really gets accomplished here, which is typically how my drawing actually goes. It happened for several episodes that I was actually finishing something during my session, during the episode overall. But this is not usually how it goes, especially when I'm just starting the scene. And technically, in the previous episodes, I explained to you guys that this flashback scene that I'm currently drawing, I'm considering it as a scene unit on its own, just mostly because of the colors. It has narrative of its own. It has like certain, I wouldn't go so far to say plot beats, but it has narrative of its own, and it has colors of its own. So in my mind, it makes it a scene. And I think it is for 5 pages overall. And the thing is, because I consider it a scene, when I'm starting drawing a scene, there's typically nothing drawn at all, right? So when you were seeing me finishing other pages before, when I was actually doing a lot of progress on other episodes of the podcast, that made sense because I was actually in the end of the scene, because the scene that I just ended had maybe 25 pages. And when I started my Weekend Drawing podcast, I was actually in the final stretch of it. So I actually was finishing, on the verge of finishing the scene overall. So I already had a lot of things drawn. So sometimes I would open the page and start working on this page, and this page would have already some percentage done because of how I'm typically working, what you're gonna see today. So when I'm just starting working on a scene, my plan overall is just to get a good grasp on how to draw this scene, how to draw these colors, how to draw like different elements of the scene. Because each individual scene usually has its own challenges. And I mean, I'm not saying challenges in the way that it is difficult, but in the way that it is something different and new that I need to draw, that I haven't been drawing for days after days, for the past months. So it's something new that I have to draw days after days for some months. But with this particular scene, it's just 5 pages, so it's not going to be months. It's going to be just 1 month. So there is new elements, like for example, in this particular scene, there is snow, like the environment is overall different. So when I'm starting a new scene, I want to kind of start drawing everywhere. I want to start drawing different pages at once, different panels at once. I just want everything from the beginning to be consistent and kind of get the idea of how I'm drawing things right away. And also kind of what happens, I don't like really when it's the new scene, I don't like just starting on one panel or on one page and finishing it all, because I want to see how the approach that I'm gonna take gonna work for the whole scene, not just for one panel. For example, some panels can be different. Some panels are really in motion and certain things work for this panel, but they won't work for another panel. And it can be a lot of different things that you cannot predict necessarily. And if you, at least for me, for my process, if I just start working from one page, complete it and go, figure out the rest of the scene, it just might not work, and I might just have to go back and rework what I did on the first page. So what I like doing is just drawing everywhere, everything, and just getting the idea. And for example, this particular panel that I'm drawing with this guy, actually, it's a little bit cheaty here because I do have something completed on this page. And the reason why I have this completed, because it's literally a reuse. I just finished this one panel, and then another one is literally a reuse, and I just moved the pigeon head a little bit. But what you can see, where it's actually starting to be something more complex, like this panel, I have this guy and I have his reaction, and I have character standing behind him, the character that I didn't draw yet in this chapter, so that I have to get in the groove of drawing. So as you can see, once the face of my character and his reaction start becoming more or less looking decent, this is when I will jump to another page right away. So it's kind of like I'm drawing a little bit till I'm seeing that it's working, and then I'm jumping to another panel, working on another page overall, and just working it up until it looks like it's gonna work out. And then I go to another one, and then I in the end go and finish them all off. Or sometimes I finish one panel how I did in the one at the bottom, but it's rare case. So also I wanted kind of to talk about drawing this guy's expression here, and overall drawing this particular angle. I actually struggled with drawing this one, this panel, and I spent a lot of hours on. And I know because this was drawn not on this weekend, it was drawn on a couple of weekends before. I'm 2 weeks ahead, you guys. But because I actually would go back and touch his face again and again, it wouldn't be working for a long period of time. It gave me somewhat of frustration. It rarely happens that something just doesn't work out, or something just, I draw it and it still doesn't look right to me. And this happened with this guy's face on this panel. And as you can see, I'm drawing it not in the way that I'm putting more and more colors to draw more details and more details. A lot of what I'm doing right now is redoing a little bit. See, I'm moving a little bit of an eye, I'm moving a little bit, redrawing a brow a little bit, I will be moving nose a little bit for this guy. I don't think I'm not gonna finish this guy in this podcast, but overall I was just struggling. And the reason why I was struggling, there is two of them. First is that I actually didn't set up the angle right. That's kind of my problem, because the way compositionally this page is set up, you can see that the character that is standing behind Kuroi, we see this character a little bit from above. And the way I'm drawing Kuroi is I'm drawing him drawn a little bit from up front. So even though I sketched out this particular panel to be kind of the camera for this panel looking for a little bit from above, I'm not drawing Kuroi in the right perspective, to be honest. And he's not he almost shot with different camera from another angle. And no matter how well I'm gonna draw his nose, his cheeks, whatever, his eyes, it still felt like he is not standing in the same, space where the character behind him is standing, just because he's just in the wrong perspective. He is not, we're seeing him like directly facing him, not a little bit from above as we're supposed to. And I think that was one of the biggest problem, because I didn't realize it right away. And then when I did realize it, I decided that maybe I can make it work somehow, and I started working around, and it wouldn't work out. So eventually I would morph his face. You would see probably in the next episode, or maybe not at all. I'm sorry, guys. Maybe this is something that I actually did on the weekend, but I would have to morph his face. I would have to change his nose, because now we kind of see nostrils in his nose, which is not correct, because we're seeing this character a little bit from above, and this character doesn't have his face, like his head is not looking up, we're just in the wrong angle. So I had to redraw his nose, so we see the more like the top of his nose, as I see on the both pages that are already completed, on the left page 33 and page 50, where we don't see nostrils. And then I had to redraw his eyes a little bit, and then I had to redraw his eyebrows a little bit, redraw his mouth a little bit. So I had to redraw a lot of things a little bit and changed. I was basically struggling. It was just, no matter what I was drawing, I would be also looking in the, like a little preview in the right bottom corner, and I would something just wouldn't feel right. So this is something that I was struggling with this panel. Another thing that I was struggling with this panel is overall this guy's emotion. Like I couldn't decide how I want to portray his emotion in this particular panel. Overall, the problem with this character, as you probably hear me talk about, in every podcast, because they're all focused on this character for now, is that he doesn't show his emotions willingly. If we see his emotions, we see them because he always have like kind of a lot of self-control. He likes to curate his own emotions. He doesn't like to show what he's feeling to people, and also he doesn't really like feeling what he's feeling overall. So every time we see him actually emoting, it's where something is rather surprising or shocking, or basically he kind of lost a grab on his self-control for a second there. So every time he's experiencing certain emotion, it usually has this mixture of surprise blended in, because in this case, he is having this flashback again, and he at the same time has emotions toward this flashback. At the same time, he has like a small expression of surprise because he is having this flashback, and his emotion is slipping out. How to get like leaking through out? Wow, that's not English, but basically we get it. We see that kinda he losing control of them. So, and that's kind of what I was struggling, because it's kind of hard to have the mix of two emotions and represent them so you guys or the reader understands what I'm trying to show with this character. And if I want you to know that he is actually shocked or scared or stressed or resolved, and I want you to know that this is what he's feeling, but at the same time I'm drawing also surprise on his face, it's harder to still clearly communicate this emotion of everything else that is not surprise, because surprise is blended in. So this is something that I was struggling. And another thing is that because maybe this is the problem I'm running into, and I'm just have to figure out how to work around it, or maybe just some character development of how he emotes, like think about how it can be drawn differently, because in this chapter he is being triggered a little bit, like a lot, like this chapter is pressing in all his points and pressing all his buttons, and he kind of has to confront a lot of things. So he has a lot of these moments of the chapter where he feels something, and we see a glimpse of his emotion with the surprise on his face. And what it leads to is that a lot of emotions that he's expressing kind of look very similar, and this is something that I don't want to happen. Even though this character has control over his emotion and he has the same situation happening with him, like he's reacting to the same thing, so it would logically to assume that his reaction is going to be the same. But I still want to have some variation in his emotion. So, and also as I was drawing, I was thinking it's a little boring. Whatever he's feeling is a little, like his face, not like boring. We've seen that throughout this chapter. I want his face not only emote in a sense like, yeah, it makes sense that he emotes this way, but also in a sense that what we are learning about him through him emoting this way, through this new emotions that he is showing. So, and that's kind of was giving me a little bit of a struggle, because I wanted his emotion to tell something a little bit more than we already learned, because we already learned through this chapter that when he's having these flashbacks, he is stressed out, he feels sad and scared, and we know that, we already learned that. But what else? Because those flashbacks gonna be continue appearing, and also the nature of flashbacks would also elaborate more and more about this character, and we're gonna learn more and more about what this flashback is and what exactly happened in this past. And the more flashbacks he has, the more details we're gonna get. But I also don't want to just be stale in the way character emotes. So this is kind of what I was thinking, and as I was drawing, I was thinking, well, yeah, like first of all, the angle is a little bit giving me a little bit of trouble, because at this point, I tried not to admit that I'm drawing the wrong perspective for this character. And also, I was feeling like, yeah, well, Christina, when you figure out the angle, what you're gonna get this character's, like the same face of this character again. You're gonna get the very same face again. So this is something that I've been struggling with this particular page, and oh man, I've been struggling for hours and hours. And another thing that is always very difficult when you do something that I'm doing here, that I'm not admitting that perspective is just off, I just continue drawing, and I'm thinking, well, maybe the more I draw through, the more details I put in, the more work I put in, the better it will be looking. And what ends up happening is that I inevitably realize that no, Christina, you have to admit it is perspective that is wrong. You have to, redraw the how perspective looks on this character. And that means that all the hours that I put in while I was in denial, I have to now, say goodbye to. and also see how whatever I already drew I will be destroying and redrawing, and it always feels sad. So it was a lot of emotion for this page, to be honest. And another thing, like also his shoulders wasn't working. Like overall this panel was just like giving me hard times. But to be fair, every time I'm starting to draw a new scene, that typically happens, like the first couple pages or the first couple panels that I complete for the scene, they're always the hardest. And I'm not sure what it has to do with, because I'm drawing, for example, in this case, the very same character. And a lot of the times when the scene is different, like the characters that appear are not new. I don't know what exactly happens, maybe because the color correction that I did in the reference, I'm not yet super comfortable with the color, not like comfortable with the colors. I don't yet like I didn't do it several times where, you know, I drew shadows and I drew lights. I didn't do it yet several times. So it's kind of trial and error. I'm trying again, and maybe the darkest tone that I would use in the previous scene, I'm not necessarily sure where to color pick it from. And also I don't have other pages from the scene drawn, so I cannot necessarily go and look at them and see how I already did it. So it's like the first pass for this panel. Well, in this case I'm lying a little bit because I have, like as you see on the left, I have a reference that I already completed. But yeah, I don't know. But these are all close-ups, and this one I had to draw shoulders and fabric, and I don't know. And you see what I mean? Like there's so many tweaks that I'm doing. Like you see how I was just making layers visible and invisible again to just see the difference that I drew in the last, you know, hours and hours, and the difference is not too much, and it's just a little different. Yeah, see, if I'm starting to move characters' head and characters' neck around, this is how you know I am in big trouble, that something is not working out. This when it's like this much of an invasive editing is getting in the way. So this is how you know. So yeah, this one was definitely giving me some troubles. My gosh. See, like, because it is sped up 4 times, you can assume that's already like maybe 2 hours of me struggling with this one. And also his eyes were giving me a little bit of a problem, because I don't know, I think it's something to do with this character too, because also I also was at this point, because it's the last pages of the scene and I drew this character in distress so many times in the last pages of the chapter, that I started thinking, like, am I showing too much of this character in distress lately? Because I also don't want reader to know that this character is, I don't know, like this weak. It's a bad way to put it, but I was, you know, at this point you start doubting yourself. I don't know. Let me know if you guys are writers and you had this. For example, you have your character and he's obviously, for example, one thing, for example, this character is, yeah, he's obviously a clever guy. He obviously is capable. He obviously, you know, not, to me, it's obvious. Like, this is something that I want to show first. Like, yeah, obviously. But then you want to start showing this character's weaknesses and this character's other side. And sometimes when you show it this character's other side, sometimes because it's important to show it right, you start showing it more and more, and then you question yourself, does it now undermine whatever I said about this character already? Like, for example, if I'm showing this character in distress for so much in this particular scene, like in the last pages of the chapter or in this chapter overall, do the readers start thinking that that's what this character is? Like, because what I want readers to think about this character, that he's obviously capable and smart, and, you know, he knows his stuff, but also he has this going on. I want this order of people to know things about this character. I don't want people to start thinking, well, he is constantly in distress and he's constantly, you know, scared and everything. He's potentially covered. And yes, sometimes he can do something. You know, this is not the order. Like, sometimes you think, did I overdo it a little bit? You know, this is like kind of the questions I keep asking. No. Like, yeah, I'm thinking a lot of things over there, because again, this character doesn't appear in every chapter. This character appears every other chapter, or sometimes every 2 chapters. And every time he appears, I have to progress his story forward. And for this character, a big part of his story is not only what he's doing, trust me, he will be doing some things very soon, some active stuff in present time. But a big part of this character is the mystery of what happened in this past, because he provides a lot of additional information to what we're learning from other characters, and the event of the past is important. So that's why every time I have this guy's chapter, it just only makes sense for me to trigger him a little bit and make him remember some things. But at the same time, I start worrying if I overdid it. I don't know, guys, if you're writers, let me know if there's something that you personally struggled with, because this is definitely something that, I don't know, something that definitely makes me think, because always I don't want this character to come across just, as a constant coward. I want this character to come across that he is afraid of things very much, but he holds it all together. And the obvious thing about him that he is capable in a lot of areas is just this things that is happening to him that not a lot of people see. I don't know. You guys let me know. But yeah, this panel gave me a lot of troubles on a lot of levels. And also, maybe subconsciously, I don't want to finish drawing this, chapter or this scene overall, because this is the last scene in the chapter. And so next chapter, not chapter 9, that you guys saw me outline in one of the previous episodes, this chapter 9 doesn't have him, so he's not appearing in chapter 9 at all. So which means that I will not be drawing this character for several months. That will take me to draw chapter 9. He appears in chapter 10, and he gonna do some major stuff in chapter 10. And I'm actually thinking that my main protagonist, Tsukai, might not be, no, of course he will be, like, we're not going anywhere with Tsukai, but there will be a lot of focus on him at the the chapter 10. But yeah, so it's gonna me drawing this guy for the last time for a while. Maybe it's so self-conscious, I'm giving problems to myself to just keep drawing him. I don't know. But yeah, this is also what I've been talking about at the beginning of this episode, is that after, I did some progress on that page that I talked a lot about how it was giving me trouble. This is where I was like, okay, that one kind of looks like it's gonna work out. It doesn't work right now, but it will. And I already put a lot of work in it. This guy's like, he started looking like himself. So this is where I jump to another panel and another page. And as you guys know, the drill, how I like putting the colors. And you see, like, when I'm doing the colors for the base, the page that I'm using on the left is the page 51. And this page this is the one that I was just drawing and struggling, and I made basically all the levels invisible except the base one. So every time I'm having the base color for the character, I'm not grabbing it from the references. I always grabbing it because it's always the single color that I picked. I grab it from other pages that I use this base color already. So all the base colors that I'm using for my characters, they're always the same. Like the base color for his coat will be always the same. The base color for his hair is always the same throughout the scene. So this is something that is very important for me. So this is also something that I'm doing at this point. I will be popping in the background, and this background I actually drew in where did I draw it? I think I drew it for chapter 6, and I actually want to do a whole video about it because I kind of redrew this background. It was different background in chapter 6. But yeah, so this background, because I already drew this flashback scene, I already did some backgrounds for it for the angles that I was using already. So that's at least something that makes me drawing this scene easier than it would normally be, because I already have backgrounds. So usually if I start new scene, I have to do a whole new set for backgrounds. So yeah, so this is kind of the easy thing that happens. That's great. And I think the more I'm gonna draw this flashback scene, the more backgrounds are gonna accumulate, so backgrounds not gonna be a problem at all anymore. But yeah, I also know that this particular page is gonna give me some trouble, because you see 2 panels here. We see Kuroi's face again, he's reacting, and the 2 panels you see there is a character appearing, and I don't know, I draw a star of, like, I draw this star when this character says, I don't know, like, but basically I know that this character has to have a certain uniform It's very special. It's important to get this character. Basically, I have to design this character close because the character that is appearing belongs to not like organization, but there's like elite group that serves Penumbra, like the ruler of the world, and they should have certain clothes that kind of distinguish them. And I have concepts about their clothes, but I didn't design them yet. So, but they're already appearing. So I don't know how I'm gonna go about it. I either have to do a separate work on just drawing concept art for these characters, or just go and just start drawing and start inventing it right now on this panel, because those characters also appear in chapter 10. Oh my goodness. So this is kind of so, you know, I don't know, in the comic, every time, because everything is visual, when the new character appears and they, for example, the visual design should immediately, like, it should be recognizable because more characters like them will be appearing later, and you have to make sure that design for this character is very distinguished, thought through, and developed. And so this is where you're kind of like, oh my god, this character is appearing for one panel, but I already have to design them the way that I basically, while designing this one character, I'm designing so many other characters for the whole story, and this is a lot of pressure. And also it seems very not like confusing, like it's a lot of pressure for a very small thing, because this character appears only in a small panel, but you already have to figure out so much stuff for this one panel. So I actually don't know. By the time, as I said to you guys, that I'm 2 weeks ahead with what I'm drawing. I'm sorry, with the weekend drawing podcast, like whatever you see me draw, I'm recording, like you're watching it on Monday. The voiceover, I recorded it on this Sunday. Yesterday I recorded it, but the drawing was done 2 weeks before. Even like, so now I can tell you with all the confidence that I still didn't design this character. I have thoughts, I have a lot of stuff, a lot of references, and I have a lot of thoughts, but I still didn't get there. But yeah, this is something to think, because again, also like this flashback scene is very short, but at the same time, there's a lot of things there are a lot of things that I have to decide and get right, and there will be another page that we're going to discuss in 2 episodes after this, because something that am drawing this weekend, and that is also a very important page, and I also have to figure out a lot of things. I have to draw a lot of characters and elements on this page, and oh my goodness, it's gonna be brutal. So just 4 pages and already give me so much trouble. If this scene would be longer, not 4 pages, but like 10 pages, usually it's normal that first pages are difficult and then you fly through them, but yeah. My goodness. So you guys see my actual struggle. Not everything is amazing. I'm still being challenged constantly by my story, by my comic, and it's a good thing to be challenged. Like, I'm not suffering. It's interesting. All these challenges are always interesting, but at the same time, like, just letting you guys know, I'm not like started drawing and everything. I know everything. I'm still figuring out. And besides, when you're doing a comic, obviously, like, the story aspect, like the writing, like whatever is the story about is one thing, but also a lot of quote unquote writing is happening when you actually show up to draw pages, because how things look, how people react, body language and everything is a huge part of the storytelling. So it's kind of important, and it's important to think it all through. And I also dreading the part that in chapter 10 or chapter 11 we're gonna start seeing, in chapter 9 actually too, in chapter 9 we're gonna see a city, like very important city, the biggest, like Pentakar. It's the capital of the northern province, and the city is massive. This city is a huge set piece, and oh dear lord, and I have to figure it out just for one page. I have to figure it all out. Oh my goodness, I already collected reference and whatnot, but this is a lot of pressure. What if by the time I actually start, have a longer scene set in this location, I would realize that I didn't think it through well enough. oh, I'm because the thing when you're writing just in the book, you don't have to think it all through because you don't have to show it all. But when you're actually drawing, there's no way to show something without showing it all, you know? So unless you like do it in shadow, but I cannot just make a city in shadow. It doesn't make sense. I don't know. A lot of struggles to come, but that's okay. I'm still totally enjoying my story and it's all fine. Struggles makes you a better person and better artist, so it's all fine. And also overall drawing snow, it's another thing. I haven't drawn snow, like, well, I have drawn snow before, but it was just a couple standalone drawings. So I know how I know how to draw snow, but I didn't draw a lot of snow, and I didn't draw a lot of snow for my comics. So I realized, well, drawing snow is unusual. It's not something that I'm used to drawing. And this is something that I have to figure out, like mountain, because usually if I do like standalone pieces, I would choose the nature like mountains, forests, I don't know, lakes. I very rarely draw snow. I had one piece, but yeah, so many challenges this time. I hope guys you're not losing your faith in me to give you good advice. But overall, this is just the honest thing, and those pages definitely, like the pages for this last scene, definitely taking me longer. And for the next episode, in the last podcast, I told you that this episode is going to be about it, and I lied. Not think that I lied, I was wrong, because I am next episode is going to be about me like adding an extra page and changing one page and adding an extra page to chapter 7. So the chapter before the one that I'm drawing right now. And actually chapter 7 is now airing. Like I'm publishing chapter 7 right now. I'm publishing a page per week. And I needed to add a page because we will talk about it in the next episode. So I just recorded a whole video about just my process of working on chapter 8, and I was talking about how I did a lot of breaks during this chapter. I did breaks to do freelance, I did breaks to redraw chapter 3, 2, and 1, and I also did a small break to redraw one page for chapter 7. So this chapter was very disrupted, and now this last scene is giving me a little bit of a trouble, but that's okay. That's okay. It's also my last time drawing this character. No. Oh my god. Not the last time, but the last time for a while. But yeah, a lot of emotions drawing this scene, a lot of emotions drawing material for this Week in Drawing podcast. So that's something that, that's what podcasts are for. I'm showing what is up. And this week, a lot of emotions are up. But yeah, I'm gonna keep you guys posted, and as I said, I have a video coming out about just my experience overall finishing chapter 8. I also have a little bit of a vloggy style, a bad content thing where I'm actually also talking about chapter 8 and what is happening in the scene in more details, and how it was writing this scene, and how I feel, did I feel that I accomplished what I tried to do or not. So we're gonna discuss all of that, and these videos are coming more, where I'm gonna just do a more holistic overview on whatever I did in this chapter. But yeah, that's it for this episode. Next episode is gonna be unexpectedly drawing chapter 7, but that's it for this episode. Thank you so much guys for tuning in, and I see you in the next one. Thank you guys. Bye.